ʻéitx shukaadé yada. Sa naaléi shukaadé dutéeni linúkdzi ʻatudli.átk Kayaaní. Stop tweeting and finish eating. Stop tweeting and finish tweeting. That's a yuchatunk again. Okay, you eat kwa.
Ida ʻatl tunk.
Dasa?
Idat gwall ʻatl tunk. Okay.
Yeah, away. Yeah, away. Twitter. Kashuk ʻakawtuwaneek. That's not really yuchatan, that's kashahit. A lot of it has to do with these things, huh? ʼatudli.átk. Type kayshadak. Just yachsacha. That one's not as fun. Okay. ʻéitx look at you on. And cheese. Yagi dech away at ʻéitx shukwa we Osado sago at Bishkash. Ḳudziteeyi Át Ḳulagaawú. Su gachtu tu. Aqa adat yuch gachtu saat. Niltakat be yuchatunk at 2 years. ʻéitx we take shkalneek gol ʻakawtuwaneek. Wasado sago at wasa yabdu in Stóow I decide to junetema kakhwasaku tagish yuchatangi for yewe achtandikani yeatia that kakhwasaku kakwan ishtu yuchatangi dati jutuneets. All right, good to see everybody. So I thought what we'd do is do a reread of the story. It's sort of like one sentence at a time, just seeing if there's anything anybody wants to talk about within the story. And then we're going to translate a story from English to Lingi. Any questions or thoughts before we start?
So we're not doing ʻakawtuwaneek ʻakawtuwaneek.
We might if we get time. Yeah, but I know I told you folks to read it too. So. Let's see how we do. Okay, so here we are. Got to shkalneek. Maybe I'll read the sentence and then I'll just say if there's anything that you folks want to ask or point out about it. Wooch kika awe atastatii and you Seidayaa which could say it's Seidayaa we what's at a.
So the opposite would be the kika.
Kika is facing one another.
Okay. So it's more situational and it's not like opposite moieties.
Yeah, it's just like like literally means to face each other.
Okay.
So Wooch Kikahit was these two houses that were facing one another. So do we know there's Dayin, Dekun, and Kika? Those are very similar things. Do we know all three of those? Dayin, Dekun, Kika. Say Dayin Yan Han.
Face me.
Face me. So Dayin is to face. You could say what the kun is the the kun keitli.
The dog was looking away from me.
My dog is seated and facing away from me. Yeah, what? And then which king Taanáx Johan Wooch Kika Qayqit. Taanáx Johan Wooch Kika Qayqit.
Next, you all stand. Okay. Plural.
Taanáx, do you know that one? Taanáx.
Oh, two people.
2 by 2 people in groups of 2 sit facing one another. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Oh, that'd be good to try to explain hand games.
Yeah. Right.
It'd be 6 by 6, but it's kind of all facing each other.
Okay, do shukaadé. And then Wooch Kika. Groups of 6 people. Okay. ʻawete Wooch ʼatudli.átk. You could say insulted, but if you said I don't know, I say woosh to gate is to oppose somebody's thinking. So I would usually, like this could also mean arguing. Wooch to gate ʻakawtuwaneek, they argued. They disagreed. And it kind of depends on the context, right? So there was a disagreement. And you could say ʻitugate yuchachtatán. I think about it in a different way than, well, I guess kind of in a way that opposes the way that you think about it. But it doesn't necessarily mean like, I don't know if there's really an insult there, but there's nothing wrong with that translation. Kayaaní wuchin hastatian chawasaya hasat kawaak kayawuch kayach. It's kadane as opposed to kedane, which is pretty interesting.
Why is that?
Usually when like an EI sound, when it contracts, if the vowel is going to shift, it usually goes to an A. Like
Okay.
But always hear kedane with an I sound. And I don't know why that one switches to an I sound. But I think every time I've ever heard it, it's usually, I think it's been kedane with the I sound.
Does it all mean the same thing?
Yeah. It's just
Okay.
it's a variant to kedane.
Goodness sheesh.
So they were together, they used to be together, then they used to be together well. Whatever they tried then was just as each other said. So chayach is usually like the way so-and-so said to do it. Giant, Ḳudziteeyi Át Ḳulagaawú. They were giants. They are called Ḳudziteeyi Át. In other places, it might be a kustin at. But
Renee, ʼḲudziteeyi Át. Is that something like coming into existence thing?
it just means an existing thing, something, a thing that
Ah.
exists. And so this pattern you can do to state verbs all the time. You throw that little, it's a short, low suffix on there. And that means it could be short or long, doesn't matter, but it stays low. So ʼḲudziteeyi Át. So you could say, and that turns it into an adjective. So ʻtseeni, ʻshkalneek.
If you were talking about one person, would you still use the duasauk? Or would you still, like if you were to say, Ḳudziteeyi Át, he was called Ḳudziteeyi Át or something.
Yeah, I don't know if the hus here is saying they all call them, or they all call them all, or they call them all. You can't tell. But you could say weqa yehas ayasak. That person, they all, because now that's a singular person. And so they all call that person something.
Yeah, so if I was talking about like a story told by a Nyatlahash, I could say they all call him that, or is it saying that's what he's known by, right?
Yeah, and so, but if you switch it to du, then the hus can only pluralize the object.
So duasauk still works too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this here you could say Ḳudziteeyi Át ye duasaak, or you say you duasaak.
Okay. Okay.
Away, ʼéitx ayakote away ʼakawtuwaneek. Might be high. I want to check the tone. Which we do have the original. Let's see.
Or suddenly, would it be the whole ʼéitx yakude?
It's chayakode or chayakode, chayuk. But that's the suddenly part.
Okay, cool. That's good for stories.
Yeah, and so that's sort of like all of a sudden this thing happened. And chayak and chayuk are the two main ways to say it. And they could both have day on there as well.
It's long and low in the original.
And sheesh. And that usually means so like ʼkulagaawú is like a lot of times like ʼkulaha or ʼkulaha is to wrestle, I think. Like in the you see it in the dutéeni story. I think he says ʼach'ín ʼkulaha, which is his, it'd be short and high for that one. I think I don't know that verb very well.
So this would be the more friendlier one.
Yeah, like they had a wrestling match.
Yeah, the other ones they got into like a fist fight.
Yeah. But it was a full-on battle. ʻáatl yashaw Seidayaa. So when you say tetwasa, just remember when you get to that verb, even though that's kind of a frozen phrase, like tetwasa ote, because I think it's used so much, or tetwasa kwati, it's a negative form of that verb. But in this case, tetwasa otiyin, it used to be okay. They say these mountains. Just then, they were each like that. And that, I think, referring back to being okay.
That dakati, I see lots in this story. What does that do?
That's each of them.
Okay.
So they are both being, but separately. So like Ayach Dakati Wehitk, the houses are around the lake, but not like in a group, they're in different spots. And that's the same one, and you'll see a low tone, dach, right before the verb. And it's certainly, I would say, if you go to real old Tlingit, it's used on the coast and the interior. You go to Tlingit about 10, 15 years ago, it was more common in the interior than in the coast. So it's something that was held on to, I think. It's usually called a distributive. So like they went in different directions. So that would be they all ran off. Ayu has ʼatudli.átk away you ajoy you dakati away you waysha. Has ʼatudli.átk. When or that they are fighting. And then you see the use of you a lot. And I'm sure that she's using a hand gesture like this. That's what I would think of when she's telling this story, which is something you can do. So you could say something like you, it went like this. And that's how the you part, a high tone you, works in a lot of storytelling. And that's why ʼakawtuwaneek is some of them. We might write it these days with that joining glottal, but you don't have to. The mountain. And we got dakati again.
So is that like a new thing that was decided for the pause? Because it already has the pause.
Yeah, what we say ʼakawtuwaneek? I guess because we're saying there is a glottal stop there. You don't say ʼakawtuwaneek, say ʼakawtuwaneek. And same with a whole bunch of things we're using this well, I guess not a whole bunch, but you say chadna, we were writing with a glottal.
So there's more of a stop.
Yeah, ʼéitx. So the recommendation, this was just a couple of years ago, was to write those with a glottal because it seems to attach right to the thing before it with a slight little gap.
Yeah, so would that be like na'u?
Yeah, similar. Yeah. Well, that one is like a verb root, so we had been doing it that way for a while. But this one is a little bit of an adjustment now.
Oh, okay.
Nice ordative verb there. I would also point out this one to say they're saying it to each other. They're doing it right now. And so that wooch pushes the verb plus D, which is pretty cool. Because we usually hear Seidayaa. Let the taku belong to me.
I think I heard Nyatlahash say this in his his Seidayaa duka. Is that like
Seidayaa, somebody says it. Somebody is saying it to them. That's very common. And so like that's how you do like somebody just hears this thing being said. I already finished sitting down. I already completely sat down here. You see, there's no way I'm gonna start to move off of this. Ḳuanúk is the verb here, which is to behave. Ḳuanúk would be to move off of it, I suppose. Hebakach shagach dutéeni ayuchatankawe. Then breaking off. Somebody broke off somebody's, or somebody is going to break off somebody's head, I guess. Although I would expect it to be, is the tone long and high on that one? Is that line 20?
23.
Some of their own story.
Or, yeah, 23.
Short and high.
Okay. It's interesting. Okay, wait. So this is maybe doing something like this. It's the one who's gonna get their head broken off that is talking. Wait, so now you know how to say kach. Well, if you could say kach, ʼakawtuwaneek, I'm gonna break their head off.
Hey, it's actually short and low, eh?
Okay.
Which, oh, sorry, you're talking about the yeah, well, that's short and low too, eh? But I was looking at the snake. That's the same as kayaaní shawat, that same low kind of adjective thing, eh? Is
Yeah.
it? Or
Yeah, it gets flattened.
yeah.
So shukaadé. Well, there's no, and there's also, so here, like shukaadé. Yeah, and I don't know why it would get shortened. Because like if this was a verb on its own, so this gachdu is what tells us it's a future. And then I would expect it to be like that. Shkalneek. They're gonna get their head broken off. Well, the kach part should be before it. But I do think it's this thing that ends up flattening it and probably, in this case, shortening it and turning it into, although I would also kind of expect that to pop up there, right? And so, but maybe there's some rule here that, I don't know.
Is it because now it's like a name?
Yeah, well, not, it's like it becomes like a noun. The whole thing becomes a noun. The one that is going to get their head broken off. Pretty hardcore stuff. ʻakawtuwaneek ʻéitx. A verb worth looking up here.
I'm so interested in that double T.
Take a look, see what I can find.
That extra T is a marker or something, right? A locative. I'm remembering, I don't know the phrase, them to throw them under the bus. I'm remembering double.
Yeah, I think it's some imperfective acts have that extra T on there, and sometimes it's a K and sometimes it's an underlined X. And I think it has to do with like it's a singular thing with a whole bunch of little parts that make it a singular act. I think.
so like a repetitive or not?
Well, I think of like when you club something on the head, like you're gonna club, like you gotta club this fish. Like sometimes it's a one and done, but sometimes you gotta give it a few like bangs. Or like if you're gonna sweep, sweeping in Lingi is considered a singular motion, but it's made up of a bunch of little motions. right? So it's a bunch of little things that make up a singular thing. Combing your hair, I think, is another one that does that. Kicking. So when kicking, when you go into the repetitive form, or like even the imperfective, they're kicking it right now. I think it's got an underlying accent.
What about jumping?
You'd say ʼatudli.átk. No, because there's no imperfective form. It's a motion verb, so it has to be in the progressive. But you could say
So it wouldn't be like kicking and.
yeah, because if you could say they're jumping around,
Mm.
then that would be like imply like jump, jump, jump. But if you were like, say, like you're doing like hopscotch or something, I bet you skipping might happen.
Mhm. I was just thinking of like that high kick.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so it's jump, kick, land.
On one foot.
But those are still kind of, I think it would see those as three different things, as opposed to like
One.
sweep, 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 sweep. That's one thing. Adahi. I don't. Let me see. I don't see this verb anyway. Anybody find this verb? Anybody look it up? I see. I know I think it is one for arguing, maybe. Oh. If you look here, don't have it. It's nothing with on there. You do have like poking something with a stick. You go here. Oh. But I feel like I've seen this verb somewhere. Yeah, that's okay.
Renee,
Oh.
in what you just had, there was ʻakawtuwaneek,
Mhm.
and it was for ice or logs in the river to sort of pile up on each other.
Oh yeah.
How did he? How would he? Ah. And I'm just wondering if that's related to the provoking, which would be a sort of verbal piling up or floating up against.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Has the heat. So then I would but like if this is an imperfective, there's no way to tell what this would look like or it's an imperfective. There's no way to tell what it would look like in the perfective. Maybe how would heat. Oh, maybe it was. I have an undocumented verb. Yeah, you can. I'll see what I can find. But yeah, it's provoking. So and then we have it here twice. A shukat before it. Wooch, they would provoke each other, you see. Just then they would always forgot it. Like, so this is a habitual then. Then again, ʻakawtuwaneek has ʻéitx. They would start to speak. Huh. That's also really, like, there's so much cool stuff here. Sorry. Because this seems like when you have K and the CH at the end. No, this is just, okay, never mind. So there's another habitual here. ʻatudli has, the K must have to do with like starting to talk. They'll start responding, conversing, and provoking each other. Kayaaní Wooch has ʻatudli.átk. I don't know if that one's out there. Right? See shukaadé. I see shukaadé. Jishuan.
Is that when they actually laid hands on each other?
It could be. Let's see if this one. So fun.
Because before that, it was verbal.
Right. Yeah. And maybe that's the part. Browsing through. Back to here. Let's see. Dutéeni is an act of instigation. ʻatudli, an agitator, instigator. Shukaadé, cause them to get out and do it, to work or to fight. Okay. And like the deep dive on this stuff is so fun. So like at some point just then they got each other to fight. Like they got one another to fight. Had them do it.
So the ush pronoun was replaced by the has at.
Where's the ush? Do you saw the ush?
In the Lear notes. It had
Oh,
ush.
yes. So the ush, when you're using that as an example, it's the person we've been talking about.
Okay, yeah, because my mom did the whole like pronoun thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this, if you want to say,
it's like the main
They-
character,
what's that?
the main character of a story.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so as we were going, like if it was a Raven story, and he said, ʻashishuané, someone got Raven to fight.
Mhm.
Right?
And you would know that that was Raven because it was the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it could, in some instances, make a switch, and we start talking about this person, and then they could be the ush. So it could be that just that person we're talking about right now. Good question. Okay, our shot. Wait, what's at age? Our will shot you up. Kayaaní, 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 ʻakawtuwaneek. A different way to say decapitate. So we broke the head off earlier. Then they grab them. And then here you got what's at age, saying who did it. Then you get the verb again. And sometimes when you say like who did it with the CH on it, and then the verb comes right after it, you'll drop the So it goes from shot to woosha. It's just something that the CH will cause is the third person. You can have, that's the one time you can have third person, and they are both nothing. They're both zeros. is they say. Then really, then here it's head, then right here, then off of it, they broke it. Off of it, they broke it at the neck. So that's what the ʼatudli.átk is doing.
So yeah, low tone is this. And yeah, high tone, like, because is this one, and you said this one's here, and then if you add the X on it, it's right here. And so how do you tell the difference between that and this?
Well, in this case, you have ya in front of it.
Okay,
And it's saying ya ashai, his head right here.
okay.
So you'd say like ya gucha, we gucha. So it's more like saying where this thing is, as opposed to yag, it happened here.
Okay.
And then kach is kadach. Kayaaní awe ke awakik ʼkudziteeyi nachsati. Udiyade, so to the other side. Ke awakik, through it. Kind of a, what is it, throwing just a general object?
Oh, it's a round object.
Oh, ʼakawtuwaneek would be a round.
Oh,
Yuksha,
okay.
we're throwing.
Always have a hard time if it's round, if it's
Right. So here's throwing. Plural objects, ʼéitx. A net, especially where you're holding on to one end and throwing the other end, shukaadé. Solid object, this is the one that we have here. A bundle of things gets an S classifier. A ball gets a K and ʼéitx. Stick-like object gets K and an S classifier. This is usually a living thing, ʼéitx. And then to throw liquid, you have K at the beginning, throw it so hard that it scatters, you get hit. And then to throw usually a spear or to hurl something against it. This is a verb that also means to push or to poke or to prod. Seguk. Or kawakuk, to throw or push onto, awaguk, to throw like a missile with the intention of hitting something. A zero classifier, zu, and you can add sh to throw something at their head, or an L classifier, and I don't know what the difference is there, but we see an egg was thrown at their head. Okay. ʼéitx Kayaaní and just then, it's pretty unusual, I think, to have it's like that. Little trees grew there, drug. So this verb is to yank it out. ʼakawtuwaneek. The taku, from that main character's hand, possession. ʼakawtuwaneek.
And can this with Millie's question about that verb, that was, she was asking, is the CH on the end of it because, or what is the CH doing there?
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's take a look at it. I just want to find the verb first.
Sure.
And look at it. Hmm. What was that? ʼakawtuwaneek. I'll go back to it. So yeah, so this CH on there, because it is not attached, it's not the same suffix as like the habitual form or the repetitive form. Ashjakach ʼakawtuwaneek away. So the doing of this verb is what caused the other verb to happen. And so when we talk about these things, there's like several different ways to do this kind of stuff. So you could say like, so I worked all day and from that, ajidach. So I've heard people say that, ajidach. And then you could say ʼakawtuwaneek do yes. All right, let me put first person in there. I'll say ʼakawtuwaneek do yes. So I am angry at them. Them eating all of my food is what caused this. So it is a verb that causes another verb to happen, but in a little bit of an indirect way.
So is it like an ergative, like in a verb? Is that what it is? Okay. Yeah. Sheesh.
So you could say, and there's a little bit of the verb turning into a noun here. Like, for example, I think the way Johnny Marks said it was, my gratitude killed me. And that's your over the top Tlingit gratitude phrase. ʼakawtuwaneek. Find this word. ʼakawtuwaneek.
Renee, are you okay? I'm just going to throw something in chat while you're looking. It has to do with another, if I can find it, another story in this book. But when I was looking up heat, if you can read that, it's really small. I don't know how to get it bigger, eh? But can you blow that up at all in chat? Or...
Here, I think I could share it.
Pretty cool, eh?
Yeah. Anahita. Oh, the heat. Maybe that heat is in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. That's that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then the up part is removed or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Fine. I'll see if I can break that down. Okay. There's another verb that I didn't find. I didn't find that verb anywhere. So like he sat down with her, and I can ask him about these. And she translated it with him. So like what a blessing to have that time to sit down line by line and write it down and have her translate. And it was just fun because like some of these things, like as we saw, some things are like a little bit different in terms of what the language is doing, but it's also her language and she's a master speaker. And so if that's what it means, that's what it means. Okay.
Well, I didn't know that about this story.
Yeah.
That she was like the one to translate the English too.
Which is why, so I think she told the whole thing and then they went through and translated it. And then when you see the brackets here, she's like, add that in there because that's what I'm talking about. So some things are in there to specify And some things are in there, you'll see brackets on the other side too, where she'll say, I think she said, okay, add this, I forgot to say this part. So like just say that part in. So it's like you're in the moment telling the story. Then you start going through like little part by part. So then let his heart become the ta. So ʼnaxsati yinada. This is a cool verb because it has there's only a few of these that do this. They have like na conjugation, and then the conjugation gets activated, and it's also a plus I classifier. So you get na, and you'll see this with qatlan, nada, naaléi, which is why you have the double A in the prefix. And so there's only a handful of them that do that, and they have to do with some certain type of motion or distance or something, depth. It's just another cool thing. Like, I don't even know what to call that. It's not I guess it's an imperfect. I don't know. Is it an imperfective? I'll have to see if there's some funky name for it, but it's very rare, but it does happen. That's why it's there. ʼatudli.átk. Oh, you're on mute. That's not
Working. Such
You can put it in the chat if you can type it. We'll check it out. Sorry about that. Okay, I don't know if we'll do the whole thing. Any other sort of things that stood out, questions, parts that you were looking at in this story? It's a good one. Through the windpipe. I guess if you're gonna tear a person apart, all the verbs are here if you wanted to like rip them into pieces. So it's a pretty wild story, but it's got some really fun stuff in it. Like this one, Seidayaa. We don't sip on it. Is that what that is? Because I know, like, this is the sipping, like, so you sip your coffee or something that's warm. But then it's got ka on there. This is an example of how you can find the repetitive form of something, and you put kesh in front of it, and now you've got the never does. Like, we never drink it. It's the way it's so cold.
So it's for sipping hot or cold then? Or is it usually just for hot?
It's usually just for hot.
Interesting.
I don't know.
But maybe it's because they're not sipping it. And that's why.
I guess like, or maybe it's like we wouldn't even take a sip of it. So yeah, so it is it's very specific with the language. It's very cool. What was that? Like with the I don't think it's in here. Maybe it's over here. Oh, to drink it up. Oh, there it is. I finished drinking something. Okay, fine. I already drank up this cupful. Drink it up. So it is, I think it's very fun to look at stories like this and sometimes like really zoom in there and take a look. Wasa ʼéitx ʼatudli.átk. So then, what do you think too? We don't even finish drinking 1 cup of it, maybe? So now the guchak maybe gets tied back in there. Wow, so much stuff, so much. Ugh.
I'm going to try again.
Oh, yay, what do you do?
Down line 60. Ḳulagaawú ye uagut we ʼakawtuwaneek. I was surprised to see the little ending attached to island.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, like you could talk about, I think you could say there's a lot of things that could be yadi. Like, so like say you had a table, nadak yadi would be a really tiny table. And I think nadak katsku would be a small table, and nadak would be a little table, and nadak would be a table. So you can, I guess that's how I think of it, is being small, put yadi after it, smaller, and then katsku is even smaller than that, maybe. Yak yadi is a little boat. Yak katsku would be just a little teeny tiny boat.
Goodness, geez.
So he walked across that little island.
So could that be like a model size boat?
Well, then that's usually yak kaya.
So then that's tinier than the
Yeah,
tiny.
it's like it's just a pattern.
Oh, okay.
It's like, that's when you say like, this isn't even a boat, it's just
Yeah.
a pattern. But that's what you do, you make a model thing, and then you'll make one that's just like it. Like a lot of times you'll see, I think in that documentary of Wayne Price, they make a model, and then they make the canoe.
Mhm.
It's really cool. Okay. Wonderful story. So much, and there's lots of these place names are there. You could find them in the book itself. You could also find them in the place name book. And that's how these places came to be. Kachwa yantu wajako ashingitsawa achyach shtukakkwashin. Like there's really cool stuff in there. She was such a wonderful speaker of Shinget. And like you can really take deep dives into this story in terms of the stuff here. So very how yantu wajako, someone who's their insides really fit together. And then here's the so you could probably link those together. It flattens this out again. Shingit, person. Sawe, which finishes the wa. Ach yah, from my face, actually. Shtukakkwashin. They will be strong inside. Okay.
Like, it might not be face, do you think? Or like it's that surface, a vertical surface type of thing, or
It's
like
like
that?
also the upper part of a mountain.
Oh, okay, okay.
And but again, like it's from the face, but it's also from the vertical surface. Yeah, so it could be these parts of the mountain. But
Sure.
Shaya is also like we go, Shak'e is the base of the mountain.
Right.
Shada is the lower, like a typical mountain, right? And then you get up into probably above halfway is Shaya. And then you can go Shayada as well, and then Shashaki is the very top. So Ḳudziteeyi Át. Okay. Anything else on this story? It's amazing. I'd love to find the audio for it if we could.
What is it? I wonder if it's on that one.
Oh yeah, we'll cross-reference it and see if we could find it. Okay. Okay. Sheesh. Okay. Sheesh. Okay. Okay, let's try a little translation exercise. Just for fun, because we're going this way a whole lot from Tlingit to English. So now we want to go this way. We floated down the river a whole bunch. Now we're going to paddle. We're going to pull ourselves up the river. So this is Angela Sidney. I was in the library for an event and I just looked over and I saw this book there. I was like, what? And so I started flipping through it. And I said, can I scan this book? And they said, I don't know. And then I found out that the Yukon Native Language Center had already scanned this book. And I found it. I couldn't find it the other night, but I downloaded it already. So I'll put a link to it in the chat. I mean, in the class page tonight. But I thought we'd just try it out, see how good we are at translating into Tlingit. So if I can get someone to read the English, and then we'll just sort of collaborate and see what we come up with and how we might translate this stuff. Can someone read the sentence?
Bear was the only,
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no,
No.
go. Okay.
Everybody.
Okay, Bear was the only one that had Flint one time.
Okay, ʻéitx. I put Flint in there to give us a head start. You got to decide
Ḳudziteeyi
like that.
Át
What do y'all think?
I went with Hoots because of the respect we have for our grandparents and the Thai, even though the picture chosen for the front of the book would maybe imply otherwise, but I stuck with Hoots.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we can fix it in post if we need to.
How about Ţulagaawú? Did that work or not?
Good way to start a story.
I went with Chalkaway because it's implying kind of a long time ago when I wanted to set it. It was far from here.
Okay.
If we were to say the only one, would we say ʻchúdziteeyi? Or is that just?
I
or
would
just ʻchúdz?
I would probably say hoots away, just hoot away. Right. You could say just hoots. I guess there's different ways you could say it too. You could say, well, I don't want to give you the verb, but you could say the verb, or you could say just hoots, the verby verb. Kish.
I did Yesu Ke Hoots.
Hmm.
And then
Well,
I found the verb, Jiwooin.
just hoots. And what's our verb gonna be? In.
I think she said jiwu.
Yeah, I went simple
Mm.
to have it, but maybe something more about singular possession then.
Well, I think we're gonna end because the story is probably gonna end with other people having it. So I'm gonna suggest a perfective decessive.
Jian.
G. Yay. What?
Ooh.
Oh, dutéeni.
Ḳakawtuwaneek just ʼatudli.átk. Okay, go.
This would be ʼéitx. ʼéitx in LA.
Way in slash
Ḳudziteeyi. Ḵulagaawú. What?
Utah.
okay. People were having a hard
Ku'a. Or no. Ku'u.
time.
Tikusi. Uti.
It's a ʼakawtuwaneek.
I guess it's more like life was hard, and that's not the same as people were having a hard time.
Yeah,
Boutique.
that's a
Boutique.
ʼakawtuwaneek. People's lives were difficult. Yeah, I think it works. Oh. How's the fire going?
ʼéitx.
Gun, a costly kiss.
Isaku. Still be asked in the like question format. Feel like
I think so. Even though it's rhetorical. Just because Tlingit, it's pretty rare for you to say like yisaku, unless you're talking to someone who's you're raising or teaching, right? Like you said, you know this, right? Because even in English, it's like sometimes these will go out, like it's a little bit of a question, right?
Yeah.
I think it's really a statement.
One of Inyashash's stories, I was wondering this because the English is like his sickness is now gone, but the Tlingit was gusu denegu.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a question mark. I was like, his sickness is now gone?
Yeah.
How did I?
Where did it go? So think
Mice.
what's that? I could probably use this one. Yakshakitsk. So then you're getting sometimes the fires go out. So now you got this repetitive. It's really nice when you set up one of these sometimes things, whether it's mayatiyik or one qanins, and then moving into a repetitive. So you end up with sometimes always or sometimes regularly. What kind of mice? Little tiny ones or bigger ones?
Little
I
tiny.
just learned about deer mice last night, so that's on my mind.
Hawk?
Deer mice, what is that?
They look like the size of mice, but they're like the size of rats, and they do live here in Juneau.
Wow.
Is
Like,
that what I saw in my basement? Like, yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, I found out they're really, really big. Like a regular trap won't kill it.
what are those things that are the size of your thumbnail?
Shrews or moles?
Yeah,
Those are also kakaw. They have the same name.
Yeah.
Kakaw.
because they look just like mice, but they're just tiny.
Yeah, they look, I had one, I
Yeah.
was in Minnesota, and one crawled on my shoe and it looked like a little ball. It was so tiny. Oosk. I just told it to go away. And they really got it. What do you think we're talking about?
Who not?
Understood.
In. Duchin.
Did they obtain it? Is that what it's saying?
That
I
they-
think so.
I would like to see the next sentence.
Yeah, I think they're the heroes here.
ʻakawtuwaneek.
No, they got it. They didn't steal it. They got it. They obtained it.
So it'll be like a. Would that be like a succeed here?
Big claw.
I would luck.
So like jumping ahead, but that since they're kind of the heroes of the story, could we use an ush for when we get down back to mice?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
So you hoot.
Let's do the you after we say the thing. I think that's generally the pattern.
Kayaaní. Fishtail.
Yeah, bear don't have a coup.
Lady?
But do they have, is it really?
Really?
Yeah, because a coup is a big flappy one.
Yeah, but I still feel like they don't even have that. It's like a little button thing, you know what I mean? I'm like,
Like I still like if you had like a, like they take a pit bull or a Rottweiler and they don't they like tie it a string real tight and then it falls off or something.
yeah, they crossed the tail.
That's the baby, I think.
Yeah, I guess they still have, yeah.
Like a little deer, like they got a little.
Like, did someone cut Bear's tail off once?
Yeah, I think they just
They have little
ski. Ḳudziteeyi. I think they still have a ḳudziteeyi though.
Well, a deer tail is also small.
Yeah, it's just like a little.
Yeah.
But it could still. I think it could still do that, right? Which I think, as opposed to this or this.
For some reason, it just makes me picture them with like a dog tail, though. Could you imagine if deer had dog tails? Anyway, that it's a funny image.
How's he gonna tie it?
Cut.
Oh, to attach.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ďásaach. Ďásaach. With
Oh.
What about a cow? It's it.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Stick it.
So like tied it up, right?
Yeah, a ʼakawtuwaneek would be like you wrap you like a bandage.
Okay. So it wouldn't work for rope.
It might, yeah, it would. Like say you had a hook and you're wrapping it all the way around and tying it. So we get to decide how.
We want to wrap.
How do you tie that on?
Tie it off.
Not in a bow that comes undone easily. No. Tie it in a knot that's just sort of maybe a little too general. Tying strings and knots, an apron around themselves. Tie your hair up. This is tie your hair in a bunch. This is also tying up your hair. There's one, I think when you put sh on front of this one, it means tie your hair up in a bun so you can go fight. So now we got tying up a box, tie a bundle, tie the stems of a bundle, tie together loosely, tie together by wrapping, so that could work. Tie up the mouth of a sack, tie up the hands of a captive, tie up a dog.
Wow.
And then we also do have, as was mentioned, attached to, which is why, oh, I think
Attached to hang.
it's under connect. So this,
Yes.
that's like
Mm.
connecting two wires or something like that.
Yeah.
It's together.
Okay.
But that is I think that's in the Raven and the Ḳuk story, the little owl.
Oh.
I can't remember. Let's go see. I think it's let's see, whose version? Yeah, no, I think.
He tied pitchwood.
So he does say kahut. So that is the connecting one.
Huh. Yeah. Kassakat.
Kahut.
Kassakat.
But I mean,
Mhm.
you all are the translators. But does he wrap it like a bundle? Does he attach it? Does he wrap it like?
Kane, I just wanted to ask you about that verb, that adasaach, because in that Frank Dick Jr. story, where the straps break, that's the verb he uses, like to tie the straps. She's trying to tie the straps together again.
Right.
But there's no bundle, or there's no
That's
no
true.
but I like kasachat here, but I'm just asking about that verb, like it, or maybe in general these things are more flexible than nation story or whatever. Just kind of, yeah.
That's a great point, because it's also used to wrap something up, like to wrap a present. You're gonna have a dawa, right? They wrapped a present. And we see here, infants are tied onto them. ʼakawtuwaneek. Here we have to tie on as bait, ʼakawtuwaneek. To tie up a bentwood box, ʼdadusaach. To tie up a person, kisaach. And to again, kisaach, to tie up a person. So in this case, Raven is in a box and his nephew is tying the box up because Raven ate all of his cod oil. He was mad. But then Raven's like, oh, you should use these little, he convinced him to use these little strings. And then, of course, when he threw them down the cliff, all the strings broke and Raven flew away. So lots of options. And this is where, like, this kind of work is so fun, because it's not about like right and wrong at this point. It's about like, yeah, pick one. A ʼakawtuwaneek. A ʼakawtuwaneek.
Where I got the ʼakawtuwaneek is one of Kayaaní's stories she did with children of the children of the Taku, where they said with ʼakawtuwaneek, and they tied up the chickadee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and I guess the way I would kind of think of this is like a ʼakawtuwaneek would just be he attached it there without being very specific. And then I would say a ʼakawtuwaneek would be like there's a bit of wrapping around there, and then a ʼakawtuwaneek would be tightly wrapping, like if I think of like how someone makes an adze, they put the blade on, and the way that twine like really gets tight together, that's what makes it that it's a binding. So I guess you have like attaching, wrapping, and binding.
Depending on how secure we want the tail.
Yeah, right. Which is, I don't know if he like made it into like a really tightly wound thing, but who knows?
I was leaning towards attached because that was kind of like the purpose of it. When I think of the wrapping and binding, I'm thinking of him doing it around his whole tail, not just the long hairs that get specified in the second half of the sentence.
Okay.
So that was my thought process after listening to everyone.
I think that what I was thinking with it was that it seems like there's some foreshadowing that the tail is gonna like potentially fall off. And then it would have to be tight on there for the tail to fall off for Mouse to get the fur.
All right, like maybe it did
Yeah.
have
And I'm convinced the other way again. None of these I'm advocating for was my original suggestion.
Okay, he had fastened it there. And you can, we'll save this in multiple formats and you can write your own version of it too. So don't feel bad. Where he had long hair under there.
It would be fur, right? Or would it, it's kind of sounding like longer than fur, but can fur be long?
Yeah, yeah.
So it'd still be ḳawú.
It'd be ḳawú. And then you don't have to, like English, you're gonna have the had one, or you're just gonna go straight to the verb. Okay.
Can the verb do the job of making it long?
So we see, and this page got a little bit messed up. So for something to be long, usually of stick-like objects when the focus is on the length rather than the width. So not really a stick-like object. Generally, and we see dushakawú yanachet, jinkat ḳudziteeyi flexible objects, including ropes. Long time. I'm gonna say maybe this one. And then we'll maybe peek in here to see if we got a perfecto. Long and gangly. Look at your gangly. Long-fingered steels. Oh, interesting. I get this is an instance where I don't think it has to be a perfective. So you could just say ʻliyet. And whoops, to go the wrong thing.
So do you have to specify, since there's two characters in the story, that it's ʻchúdz, or again, but ʻchúdz I guess is at the beginning.
Yeah, so once we said ʻwehūts, that's who we're talking about until
Okay.
we go back to ʻwekakak. And that's how you sort of, or you say kakak, and that's how you signal we're switching.
Okay.
And that's how you generally take care of that. ʻwehūtsdutéeni ākawtuwaneek dugáawú yat away. Under there. ʻwehūtsdutéeni ākawtuwaneek away dugáawú lliyat. I guess that's how I'd say it. I don't think you have to say under there. Say at that place, his hair is long.
Because it's already saying under there above.
Yeah, and so we already know that's where it's at. But I think the English likes to maybe do that.
Just, one last question, a quick one, René. How do you know when to use and do? Because I noticed these bear stories, people seem to, it's even confusing for speakers, or they seem to flip back and forth, or so what do you think? How do you work that?
Like, so in this story, like they are characters in the story. For me, that makes them duh right away. I probably do duh for a lot of different animals. I don't know when I do but I think if you really look at speakers, sort of like a definitively non-human thing. But like, I think it's going to vary from person to person. Like, if you're a dog person, the dog's going to be duh. But if you don't like dogs, it's probably going to be right? And
I'm just thinking about that that bear story again, where ʻakawtuwaneek, but sometimes they'll use do as well, eh? It seems to be like back and forth, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Because they would say ʻakawtuwaneek or ʻakawtuwaneek. And so they do seem to move back and forth with those, which lets you know there's some fluidity. But like if it's a rock or a tree, then it's always So maybe it has more to do with like living and non-living and how we're perceiving them in that moment. Huh. Okay. Way ʼéitx. If you only knew what's gonna happen. Next week we'll still do Elizabeth Nyman. We'll do a little bit of this. We'll do a little bit of Kayaaní. I do want us to there's some longer like biographies in there, which will probably well, I guess you have a weekend. So I do think it would probably benefit us if you read really do a close reading on those big long ones over the weekend. And then I want us to make sure, because I think the last time I taught this class, we didn't spend a whole lot of time on her biographies. And I think it's an autobiography and it's so important. It's like such an incredible life and an incredible history. And it includes maybe the only non-Tlingit who learned Tlingit up until like recent times, like up until Nation Story. And so he was a legend, this guy who owned a shop. And he must have spoke Tlingit very well, because there's a part in the story where he says, leave your daughter here. She's really good to speak Tlingit with, right? Which means he knew what he was doing, I would think. He's not someone who just knew like 10 phrases, like he must, because people they talked about him a lot. They said, oh yeah, you could just go in and just speak full on Tlingit with him. And they must have really respected him, because I think the way someone told me is like when you came here, they'd speak Tlingit to you. And if you didn't understand, they'd try Chinook. And if you didn't understand, they'd speak English, and they're thinking less of you as they go along. So, because it's like, as we see, it takes a lot to become a speaker of this language. And so they're like, oh, you didn't even try it, man? So we'll pick up, this story is fun. I think it's good for us to practice our skills, like, because we listen to so much Tlingit this semester, which is what we're supposed to do, but just to make sure that we're language producers as well. I think it's really helpful. Okay, anything before we go? Oh,
Santa Kayaaní, Sunday afternoon is a service for Sister Marie Olson.
Okay, next week I'll be in Phoenix, so I'll say hi from the sunshine or whatever's down there. I don't know.
Yeah,
Cheers.
Kasago.
Okay.